All right, we'll just kick it off at the top of the hour here. So my name's Megan. I'm going to hand it off to Shelby, Harvest Content Marketing Manager, and we'll take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. Hi, welcome everyone to our webinar today. We're really excited to kick things off and have you all here with us. Our goal for the day is to provide you with some real world perspectives from a really great Harvest customer who has some really valuable insights on how you can make the most of your time tracking data and all the cool things you can do with it. Before we jump in, a couple of housekeeping items. We'll leave about 10 minutes at the end for a Q&A session. So please submit them in the Q&A section and we'll address as many as we can before wrapping up. And then also, this is a continuous series, our webinar Q&A. So if you have any ideas for another topic, or if you even want to participate, you can send those into marketing@getharvest.com. Again, that's marketing@getharvest.com. Super easy, and we'll get in touch with you. So yeah, the topic that we're covering today is how to leverage your time tracking data to boost your business. We're really excited to be joined by Michelle Wintersteen. She is the founder of MKW Creative Co. And she's also a Harvest customer who's found a really great way to use her data to empower her team, boost retention, and even grow her client base. So Michelle, welcome. We're so appreciative of you taking your time out to share your experience with all of us.
I'm super excited. I think we have a lot to cover. I'm a fast talker, so if anyone needs anything repeated, please let me know, but we'll try to get as much information in the amount of time that we have as possible.
That's great. I love it. So why don't you just go ahead and introduce yourself and MKW Creative Co. Tell us all about it.
Sure. So my name's Michelle, as Shelby and Megan said before. My business is MKW Creative Co. And what we do is build brag-worthy brands for social media-minded entrepreneurs in the travel and luxury lifestyle space. So it's coming up on 10 years of owning my business, which is kind of wild. I started as a college student. Harvest was one of the very first tools I ever bought because I used it as my invoicing tool, my time tracking tool, and really helped me kind of get my feet wet in the entrepreneurship space. Then kind of stepped away and then decided to come back to Harvest for a bit. And now that I have a team of independent contractors across 3 different countries and like 9 time zones, 4 countries actually, we use Harvest really seamlessly in our process and not so much as a like accountability tool, but more of a time optimization tool. So I was really excited to be invited to do this because I think we are using Harvest in a way that maybe a lot of other users aren't. And when I started to explain it to both Megan and Shelby, they kind of tapped me and said, you know what, this would be a great webinar topic. So very excited to dive into that. But the bulk of our work is really based in branding, visual identity, social media marketing, merchandise, packaging, print design, where I'm acting as the creative director and my team are all specialists in their very specific vertical. So keeping us all in our zone of genius is really important, and optimizing our time so that people are getting their good, deep creative work regularly, and they're getting out of the tasks that are consuming a lot of their time. It has been a really large focus for us in the last 2 years.
I love it. So you touched a little on, how you've got freelancers all over the world. But what else kind of makes MKW stand out from the rest? Like what makes you guys special?
Yeah, so I think we have a very like worldly aesthetic, which sounds kind of odd, but I was a digital nomad traveler for a really long time. I actually got to meet a few different people from the Harvest team in my travels. But the biggest thing for me was making sure that I had a team that had diversity of experience that were contributing to our client projects. So I'm based in San Diego. I'm very much a California girl. I have got that in me, of course, but my biggest goal in building and scaling a team, because I could do everything online, was to hire people that had different backgrounds than I did, spoke different languages, lived in different places, came from different families and education and all of that training, because it really is an asset to our team. And we're able to blend that really seamlessly for our client projects and really pitch that as an asset. Whereas I think a lot of traditional agencies, you're kind of limited to the talent pool in your geographic region, which can be a benefit, but I think especially since we learned through COVID, if there's an opportunity to hire top talent, why limit yourself to a 50-mile radius?
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. I remember you saying when we were talking that, you know, the diversity that you've been able to bring to MKW is kind of like your superpower.
Of course.
So yeah, I really love that. So yeah, now we can kind of get into, you know, how time tracking plays into your business just on a day-to-day basis. Like how does it work for you guys?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I hired an online business manager, which absolutely changed my business and the way that I do things. I'm very much a visionary. I'm a creative. I am the person that has all the ideas and struggles more with the logical organization of the things. If I could show you the graveyard of projects that never saw the light of day, you would think I was crazy, because there's always ideas. And then it always kind of, as soon as I lose momentum in that side project, it kind of dies. And because I didn't have the accountability or the system built in place to see it through fruition. Client stuff I had on lock, but the stuff that was actually going to move the needle in my business was a lot harder for me to dedicate time towards, because it felt like it was kind of that like running through mud feeling of not knowing how to get all the pieces and parts in place. So I hired Cody, who is my online business manager, through a referral, through a copywriter who came from my podcast manager, to basically help me with almost virtual assistant style services of keeping projects organized. So she is our outsourced project manager, and she helps mostly with client onboarding and offboarding. She also does like week over week project management. But one of the first things she did when she was starting to really understand and help build standard processes for my business was she's like, I got to get you to time track. She's like, I need to know where you're spending your time and what takes the most time of these projects. How much time are you spending on calls? How much time are you doing design? How much time are you doing edits? How much time are you doing client correspondence, like emails and check-ins and, you know, refinements to these projects? Because we need to figure out where is your biggest time spend, so that when I'm sending proposals to new clients, I'm not booking 2 heavy weeks on the same time frame. So she created, based on my data through Harvest, we assigned each subtask of my job as its own line item, essentially, under like an internal client. So it was like MKW Creative Co internal, and we had all these tasks that were like team check-in meetings and planning and networking events, and every single thing that I did for the business was itemized. And then we had it as well on the client side. So she could take the report, and what she created on like a spreadsheet was almost a heat map of my exertion. So that data taught her, okay, which weeks of an 8-week project are the heavy lift. And once she knew that, she was able to kind of pick a project start date that aligned the best with my travel schedule, with the projects that we had in line, with our bigger goals for our company, which was wild, because I would have never thought to do that. She's like Virgo queen, so organized, she comes from a corporate background. And it absolutely blew my mind that she thought to even do that in the first place. And as soon as she did, it made so much sense, because when it was just me and I had a new client project, I was like, yeah, I could start it in 2 months, but I wasn't actually looking visibly at my calendar and like factoring that in. And I was willing to like work all night and all day to get it done. But now that we have that as part of our integrated process, it's a huge time save, because now I get on a discovery call, I can send Cody my notes, and she can pull together a proposal with like a realistic start date based on what we actually have in the pipeline.
That's awesome. So it's kind of just become like a really great way to plan out your resources. And I love that, you know, it kind of started with you and Cody, and then you have been able to send that out to your team and make it a process that your entire team does. So can you kind of talk us through how that works, and, you know, all of that good stuff with, you know, how you apply that process to your team?
Absolutely. So when I first started hiring on freelancers, it's really difficult, because it's that striking that balance of being a leader without being a micromanager, right? You have objectives, you want to trust them to get the work done, but you also want to make sure that they're making the most of their time. A lot of our contractors are charging hourly, and I never wanted it to be a feeling of like they had to fill the time in order to bill me more. There's this great saying from Christo, and I'm sure he got it from someone else, but when you charge hourly, you're punishing yourself for being good and fast at your job. Because the better you get at something, the quicker it should take you to get it done. because you have 10 years of knowledge or 5 years of knowledge, or you've been working on the same brand for 3 months. So it comes a lot easier, it comes a lot faster to you. So I'm always trying to incentivize jobs being done well and jobs being done fast, because if it's done well and it's done efficiently, you can charge a luxury price point, because luxury is simply efficiency and things done well. So fast and well is good. And so good is more money. And I would love to pay everyone on my team more money. So my biggest focus with the team was, how can we have check-ins on a quarterly basis that are incentivizing productivity, independence, collaboration, and also efficiency. And efficiency is a tough one, because especially when each contractor has a different skill set, their workflow is going to look a little bit different. So a video editor is going to be very different than a graphic designer, is going to be very different than a copywriter or a podcast manager, business manager, etc. So what I did with each team member is we sat down and we set their KPIs, of course, but we also dedicated out which tasks do you actually have to do to get your job done. And for a lot of them, they ended up being similar, as there's kind of a research task, there's a draft one or rough draft task, and then there are edits. So even on those 3 scales, to have them time track each project based on research, based on first draft, based on edits, helped us learn what part takes the most time. So after doing this for over a year, we realized that my video editor was spending a ton of time researching and collecting stock video and trying to learn the styles. And there was just a lot of pre-work that she was doing, which taught me as a leader that I need to give her a more detailed brief. That helps her when I give her, like, hey, use these 6 or 7 clips. I want to see these 4 or 5 fonts. I want to see these colors. And once she knew that and she learned it, she got way faster, because we weren't reinventing the wheel every time she was working on that client. So that super, super helped. So as a leader, my goal is to be able to show them their data as an asset to them, not as I'm a big brother making sure you're doing your job. That is not it. And the brand that does this so well, that's kind of our prototype, our muse, is Spotify, right? So Spotify Wrapped, so smart. They basically collect all your data of all the songs you listen to all year and then present it to you on a silver platter as something that you want, right? So they, instead of, hey, we're tracking everything you're listening, isn't that scary? They're saying, hey, we tracked everything. Don't you want to learn about yourself? And everyone wants to learn about themselves. That's just like human curiosity. So being able to give my team back a report of, here's what you do really, really well, and here's the stuff that we could optimize, it gives me also a clue as, like, do they need more training? Do they need more help? Do we need to hire someone else? Like, we're at the point now where our junior designer is now designer, but now there are junior designer responsibilities that are taking a lot of time that we need to sub out to another person. And so it's just giving us the data that reflects the output, that informs how we can build and scale and grow, so that each person can do more of what they like and less of what they hate, which sounds like a really simple way to put it, but it's absolutely changed the course of how this agency has grown.
I love that. I love that you're packaging up the data and saying, this is for you, this will help you. So in doing that, you have found success in, boosting your team and empowering them. And so what kind of results have you seen based on the process that you've put in place?
I think the biggest result, and the thing I'm most proud of, is that this independent contractor, this contractor team has been the same team for over a year. I think in the industry where people are job hopping and people are so disgruntled and so disappointed in corporate leadership, there's really a beautiful opportunity for the freelancers of the world and the work from home kind of millennial boss, so to speak, to change the script. And I think I have surrounded myself with a lot of personal friends that are in corporate, but I've only ever existed in a freelance capacity. So it's like kind of an Achilles heel, but it's also my greatest strength, because to me, I'm just operating out of what feels fair. And I think that the best thing I can do for my team is give them their time back. Like, I want them to go out and do the things that they love with the people that they love. Like, of course, like, let's get the job done, but let's get the job done as good and as fast as possible. I don't want you chained to your laptop. That's not a life that I want to live. Why would I expect that out of anyone from my team? So a lot of our ethos is about building the kind of lifestyle that we want and finding the work that supports the lifestyle instead of working so hard to only get 2 weeks paid vacation and then be thinking about work the whole time. Like, that's not the point. So when we time track and when we really are on top of it, I'm very lax about that data. Like, to me, it's just extra information that affirms the way that we already feel. So Cody, it's so great that she's more the analytics brain, because I'm very much at the camp of, if you're done for the day, go to the beach, like go hang out with your friends, go catch a movie. Like that's the kind of life I want to live. So it's very much in keeping with our ethos. And I think that that's our secret power as a team, is that mentality keeps people wanting more. And so we just had a really good meeting yesterday where everybody's like, yeah, give me more. I want more. Keep it coming. Like, I'd rather just do this than try to be out there working with clients that don't feel this way, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
So I think it's working. I think it's working.
Yeah, sounds like it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you talk a little more about, you have touched on it about, work-life balance and how that's so important and how the data kind of helps you increase that. So, and especially with them working across different time zones, can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
Yeah. So work-life balance is something I have struggled with as an owner founder drastically, like to a scary point where I want to do everything all at once, and I have to schedule time for myself to not work. So I had literally in my calendar, like dog walk and lunch for an hour and a half every workday, because if I didn't have it on my calendar, I was getting overscheduled for meetings and opportunities and networkings and come to this photo shoot, do this, and felt pulled in a million directions. So now the data is more showing me, like, when does my brain work best? Like, what day of the week is actually best for me to be on a call? What day of the week is it actually best for me to do my deep work? And I think with our team too, that's what I'm getting us closer to, is like, how do we figure out the flow that works best? Like, do we need to decompress after a large project? Do we need to ramp up and do, a sprint where we just go absolutely balls to the walls for 2 weeks on something? Like, how can we leverage our own individual working styles so that things can benefit everyone? So I have almost every member on my team has a side hustle or has even a full-time job, and I'm their side hustle. So I'm always talking to them like, okay, how can we front load your work for when you're in your downtime, so that when you're in your busy season, that this feels very easy, right? So that's the work-life balance part, where it's figuring out, but really it's just about asking. It's about asking them, how does this work for you? Like, I've 2 girls on my team that are moms, and I want to make sure that they can work while they have childcare. So if that means that they're on from 9 to 1, how can I front load their work and give them all the briefs and all the materials that they need, so that from 9 to 1, they can crush out video edits or they can do their community management. And when it's mom time, we step away. So, like, finding that balance between how can you have both, because why couldn't you have both? Like, I'm not the person, it's marketing, like, it's not brain surgery. We don't need to be online 24/7. So finding that nice balance, I think, has been a really important part of our process. And also it allows us to relate to our clients much better, because I found that our clients also feel that way about their work. So showing that we have boundaries and setting those boundaries and then enforcing the boundaries makes it so that when we do show up, we're giving it 100% our all.
I love that. So with I love the mom
Yeah.
example that you have. What have you gotten any feedback from your team, or, what's the response like?
I think the feedback from the team, and I have one of my team members here, she's sitting across from me, so she's gonna be giggling. But I think the feedback from the team, as a boss in quotes, right? Because I don't actually feel that I'm anyone's boss. I feel that we're all collaborators. And so for me to stay in my zone of genius and for them to stay in their zone of genius, it's about kind of like, it's the Simon Sinek leaders eat last analogy, right? It's saying you've got to make sure everyone else has food on their plate before you're helping yourself. And that's how I grew up. That's very much like my parents, my mom, my sister, my aunt, my grandmother, my great grandmother were all entrepreneurs. So I kind of have that naturally, I think. And I think, especially as women, that's our superpower, is wearing lots of hats and having a lot of flexibility. But I think the reaction from the team has been very positive, in that they're all, again, asking for more. They're like, what can I do more? I like this so much. I don't want to work for other people. I just want to do this. This works with my lifestyle. This works. I'm getting paid well. That's really important to me. And also the biggest thing recently is, like, you have to share your vision. And I'm very adamant about sharing the vision with the team minimum once a month. We clear the schedule. We do not talk about clients, but we talk about who do we want to work for? How do we want to work? What are we working towards? What's working now? What needs help? And I think having that level set conversation on a monthly basis is really helping, because statistically, it's some crazy number, like 90% of employees don't understand the vision of the company that they're working for. And no wonder you're not getting quality output from your employees and your contractors, because if they don't know the vision and they can't share in the vision, what are they doing it for? So it's like kind of flipping that whole model on its head and making everyone who's on the team a part of the vision. That I think is the great irony, is like, we're going to be the same team in 15 years and in 20 years and in 30 years, because that's just part of what we do.
I love it. Okay, so speaking of asking for more, we can kind of switch gears a little bit and talk about, how this also helps you kind of maximize your profitability and even grow your client base.
Yeah.
So how has it worked with increasing profitability to start with?
I think with profitability, I run a very lean business, and I'm always, again, sharing the vision. I'm always explaining to the team about our profitability, about our numbers, about what the business can afford, not what Michelle can afford, but what the business can afford. So I'm always breaking down for them. We charge this much, it costs us this much. This is how much is left over in the bucket. Who wants to go learn a new skill? Who wants to figure out, like, do we put that towards a team retreat? Like, we're always very transparent about the profitability aspect. And that's because I want them to also know, what does it cost to run this company, right? Because it's very easy to look at the bill on an invoice and not understand what the softwares cost, what the team costs, what all the bits and pieces and parts cost. So having that as a very transparent conversation and very, very high visibility is always an advantage to me as a leader. So what's helped us with the time tracking and the profitability is that as each team member has grown in their skills, they also outgrow some of their older responsibilities. So junior designer, great example. She just went from junior designer to designer. There are now tasks on her task list that are not worth her time or her pay grade. So it's figuring out who can do those tasks at a lesser rate so that she stays more towards the high level, big thinking, deep work, and some of the file export and organization, asset management, the kind of the day-to-day stuff that was at the when I first hired her, she was doing that for me. So now she needs she needs like a junior her, so that we can kind of continue to grow that. But same with Instagram caption writing, right? Like, Gabby's an incredible writer. So we want to get her more towards writing and less out of the day-to-day. So what does that look like? What tasks can we outsource? Who can we get to help at a lesser rate because they don't have experience and they need the training, so that we can pay Gabby more and then pay somebody to take some of the stuff off her plate. So that's what's helping us scale and grow. And I think that's kind of what this like 3.0, 4.0 version of this business looks like. Is we've got the dream team, but I want rising tide lifts all boats. I want all of us to rise up, and then each of them have their own juniors that they're responsible for, so that they can train them to their standard, not to my standard, but to their individual standard, because they know what my expectations are. So it's not that I'm the manager of anyone, it's that each person is the own manager of their own department, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I remember you talking about, good, better, best margins that you kind of figured out with the data. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, so this is another Cody idea, and based on the data from the time tracking from clients since 2021 is when we really started taking time tracking really seriously. She created for us a pricing matrix alongside my mentor as well. So they worked together and they created a pricing matrix that said, okay, based on the data, this is how long projects take you, and this is what your costs are, right? So factor in every team member's hourly, factor in all the softwares and the programs that we need, but your end of day, here's your ceiling and here's your floor for these projects. So based on the client that we're talking to, we give them a range on a discovery call, but we're always cross-referencing our pricing matrix to see where our margins are. So we have 3 columns in the pricing matrix. We have good, better, best, and these are really for like big, juicy rebrand projects, like our signature service. Other stuff we have a little bit more templated and it's just kind of standard across the board. But branding is a really hard thing to price, right? Because the impact and the ROI of branding can be really hard to quantify because it takes a long time to stick. So thinking about that and thinking about the value it will bring to the business gets really abstract in the pricing. But we're always asking on the front end in our discovery form, like, what's your business annual revenue? Like, not what's your budget, but how much money are you making here at this business? And how much value do we think the rebranding will bring to you? So based on their business size, based on their revenue, based on a lot of different factors, their mission, their vision, their industry, and the impact we think we could bring, we have a 3-tiered approach for pricing that's like, here's the good, the better, and the best, and those have all different profitability margins. So our good profit margin is like around 25-28%, and our best profit margins around like 50%, because our costs are our costs. But we're not getting paid for our time, we're getting paid for the quality of our ideas. So that trade-off, again, hard to quantify, but it was a very data-informed approach to pricing that has allowed us to price things a lot more accurately. Instead of just flying by the seat of our pants, which is what I did for 9 years, where I'm like, I think it should be 8,000, and just kind of going on vibes. Like, now we have data, and the data, for me, just confirms my gut feeling, which is lovely, because I think I have a really good read on our skill set and the industry and the landscape. But Cody coming in and backing it up with the facts and the figures, it just affirms to me that we were headed in the right direction. And she challenges me. She says, no, Michelle, I think this is higher, or I think that's outside of scope, and I think this is this scope of work. And I just get to trust her, which is the best feeling ever.
Yeah, that's great. So with that, have you been able to increase your client base as well through this process, and how so?
Of course. So we've gotten a lot more focused in our client base. I think 2021 was our year of like learning and kind of learning how to grow as a team. And I always tell my team when we start a new project or we start a new service, it's kind of like putting a toddler on a trike the first time. I used to be a nanny, so like I feel like this is an analogy that works. So when you put a kid on a bike, you're like, just don't fall off. Like, just stay on. And if you get bumps and bruises, like, we'll fix it. But like, just get enough confidence to stay on the bike and not fall over. Once we get going, then we can talk about going fast and we can talk about going far. But until we learn how to get this thing going, let's not push it, because we don't want to get so banged up that we never try again. So that's always the mentality. And I think with what we've learned in 2021 and 2022 is that we love a big juicy project, but we love being like the outsourced creative department for brands that align with the kind of lifestyle that we love. So now that's looking more towards like real estate, luxury vacation rentals, some lifestyle products, but also just brands that have the same energy that our team does. And that's helped us grow our client list, because we can show them like, hey, this is the output on this effort. We're not necessarily showing them the entire time spent, but I think what they are coming to value is that when you hire our team for social media management, you're getting 9 brains on your project for the price of a very, very competitive social media rate for our industry, in a way that we absolutely have to bump up our prices, because we run a really lean team and we have a lot of collaboration and we have a lot of people that are contributing. So, and our profit margins are there. So that's how we're able to charge less and offer more, is because we know our numbers. And if we didn't, then the whole thing would fall apart. So definitely helps our client list. It also helps us inform the client of when deliverables are coming or what efforts look like, whether we are pricing something in ad hoc for hourly or not, or what's outside of scope, inside of scope. Are they paying for extra edits? Are they not? That time tracking data is really helpful. And then as well for the podcast, I have a podcast, it's called Kiss My Aesthetic. And we use it as more of a networking tool than a marketing tool, because we try to aggressively go after the type of clients that we'd like to work for and interview them on the podcast and start up that relationship in long form. So that ends up being a very strategic effort on my front, but that's our marketing in a nutshell, is just aggressively going after the type of people we want to work with.
I love it. Okay. So, just to summarize, you've given us a lot of really great stuff. But it seems like there are a few themes, starting with the resource planning, you're analyzing the data, and that helps you teach your team of contractors, how to optimize their time, and help them, help themselves. So they can learn how to focus on different types of work, whether it's deep work or day-to-day tasks. And, like you said, what when they're kind of outgrowing those tasks, and then how to optimize from there. And then it's good for them. They can sequence their work. They are happier. If they're a mom, they can, do both. And then gives them room to grow, like you said. And then it's also good for your business, of course, allows you to focus on, choosing the clients that you want to work with and focusing on your creativity, and in turn, increasing your client base. Yeah. So what kind of advice would you have for, for people who kind of want to start this kind of practice in their firm?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, if you're a solopreneur, time tracking your time is essential, because you have to figure out what's the part of your process that's taking you the longest and what's the stuff that you procrastinate the most. I think when I was using Harvest in the beginning, for me, it was sending proposals, contracts, and invoices. I was like, I know this is a very essential part, but it taps into a part of my brain that I would just drag my feet over. And I'd have a great discovery call with a client, and we'd totally vibe and we'd totally get along. And then I would take like 3 days or 4 days to send them a proposal. And that time span just communicates to that potential client that maybe you're not so serious, and it was enough to create doubt. So having Cody shorten that timeline, where I could give her the cliff notes, or even now just give her the recording of the discovery call, and she can flesh out the entire proposal and send it off within 24 hours, is huge for us. Like, that's huge, because it shows them we're serious, we're ready to go. So solopreneur, definitely time track to figure out what's taking you the longest, because if there's something that you're spending a lot of time doing, there's usually a way to either A, get help, or B, get faster and better. Some of it comes with time and practice. Some of it comes with investing in better tools, investing in better systems. But you need that information to figure out, like, okay, how much am I actually spending writing an Instagram caption when I should be, responding to emails, that kind of thing. So definitely, if you're by yourself, time tracking is huge. Now that we're into more of a team model, agency model, my parents are also business owners. They run an interior design and remodel firm. And I'm recommending to them, because they have 4 designers on their team that all do the same tasks, is that they need the data that's going to show which designer, like, what's the expectation for output. So having each designer's tasks broken down, then you'll have the data that says, like, hey, your colleagues are able to get drafts done in 3 hours. Let's talk about why it's taking you 8. And, like, do you actually like drafting, or would you rather focus on installs? You know what I mean? So you're going to be able to figure out more specifically which each employee does well, because they may not be able to verbalize it, or to come to the table and say, I actually hate this part of my job, because that sounds like whiny. I don't know. It sounds like very not proactive to say that you're struggling with something. And I think that's very corporate culture, is that when you apply for a job, that you're expected to do all the soup to nuts of that responsibility. In a lot of cases you are, but I think the modern workplace is all about staying in your specialty, and then getting support and getting collaboration and support, so that people can do what they actually like to do and do less of what they don't like to do. So that, I think, as time tracking grows, and I literally recommended to my mom Harvest, I love that it integrates with Basecamp, because we use Basecamp, they use Basecamp, and it's so easy to just have that little stopwatch, or even have it integrated to your Google Chrome. So you have the Chrome extension, it's really easy. Another favorite feature is that I'm notoriously terrible at time tracking. Of course, here I am, like the owner founder, saying everyone needs to time track, and I'm horrible at it. But when I go into my Harvest, I can go to add, and it'll sync my Google Calendar in the side panel, and I can just drag basically and assign each of those tasks that I had in my calendar to which client it was. So we can put it to the client. Was it an internal? Was it a team meeting? Was it a logo review? Whatever it was, it can collate that data from my Google Calendar, which just saves me so much mental time. But I think, again, that, like, larger team model is more about being able to show the data quarter over quarter or month over month that says, hey, like, I want to give you more high level stuff, but until I see this stuff move along faster, I can't, because I'm worried you're not gonna have enough time to get everything done. And I know you want this big, juicy, this dangling carrot, right? But we gotta get you either faster or get you help with the stuff that's slowing you down. So that you can do the big, juicy projects, and you can advance in your career, and you can get paid more. But having data, I think, takes a lot of the awkwardness out of that, because then you can absolutely refer to the numbers, and they're tracking it themselves. It's not like you're standing over them saying start, stop, right? Like this is to their own advantage.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's really great. And thank you so much for providing all those insights. I think it was a super interesting to hear everything that you had to say. Especially with, I love you talking about, kind of the culture that this statistically how people are feeling in the workplace now. And so you're really trying to make it better, and it's working. So thank you. We have a few minutes for questions. Megan, I think she's collected some, so if you want to fire away.
Unmuting. Okay, awesome. So yeah, a few questions came in. Michelle, you kind of touched on this with Basecamp, but are there any other integrations that you're using with Harvest? Which ones have you found most useful, or is it truly just like the GCal and Basecamp ones that are the most used by you guys?
Yeah, GCal and Basecamp are pretty much it for us right now. We love using the reports function. I think that that's a really nice additive to the harvest flow. Also being able to have each project broken out so we can compare data like agency-wide versus project-wide, and then being able to measure that again against our profitability. So when we do have a client that's like, I kind of want to see one more extra round of edits, but it's like technically out of scope of their contract, I'm always going to Cody and say, hey, Cody, do we have room in the budget for this? And she's able to tell me either yes or no based on everyone's output. And instead of getting into that horrible scope creep feeling, as I know a lot of freelancers feel, we actually have the data that says, actually, you've already surpassed the time allotment for this project. If you'd like to continue on additional edits, we're happy to bill it hourly. And that's a great way to get clients to be like, actually, no, it's fine. Or if they really do want to see that adjustment, like we're happy to do it, but you have to pay for it. So that kind of stuff really helps. But yes, the Google Cal and Basecamp, those two integrations were like chef's kiss for us.
Awesome. Cool. Another question. So it sounds like you're really leveraging time tracking data when assessing your pricing margins.
Yeah.
How often are you, and it sounds like Cody, kind of analyzing that data?
We're doing it, I would say, consistently quarterly. But then also we hit a crazy busy season in January where I was taking like 9 discovery calls a day, and we were like, well, it's time to raise our prices. So it's very much based on demand and the ebb and flow of what's in the market, but we need to also pay attention to our pipeline. Like we have very aggressive goals. We have very aggressive niche that we'd like to get into. We're starting to see those come to fruition, and we're starting to see a runway. And so it's about, adjusting my calendar as well. Like, hey, we're booked till September. Let's not take any discovery calls until August. Like let's really continue to go in the direction of these clients that we love and make sure that they are our kick-ass case studies, so that by the time it's September, we're 2 to 3x the price point that we are. So that kind of strategic planning on a long-term forecast is something that we haven't really done yet, but it's definitely this year is the year for us to do that.
Cool. Awesome. And then another question here. What is the reception like from your employees when you're showing them the time tracking data to kind of help them improve? Like, how is that typically received? Is it a positive conversation, or how do you make it a positive conversation if not?
Well, the hilarious thing is I have 1 full-time employee, and then I have 7 independent contractors. So well, technically I'm an employee of my own company as well as corporation. What's up? But with Madison, I am very lax about her time tracking. Like, yes, she's an employee. Yes, she's 9 to 5. She lives 3 states over in Oklahoma. I'm in California. I am the one that's like the most lax about the hours, because I know the work that she puts in and it's high quality work. And I'm very, very flexible with her working hours because, again, lifestyle first, work second. So if she tells me she has a concert on a Friday night, she messages me first and says, hey, I'm going to work a little extra on Tuesday so I can take off on Friday afternoon. And I said, that's great, do it. And it's never been a conversation of me believing that she's not doing the work, because I see the work. And that's where Basecamp is really helpful, because you get that ticker of things coming in and you see the progress that's happening. But we have a check-in every Monday. And so we talk to each other every Monday for 30 minutes. She's got her card table of tasks that she's working on. She shows me what I still need to review. We work it out, we reset her priority list, and she's off to the races. But a lot of her work is deep design work. So she may not be online in like an instant message sense, like in a move your mouse kind of way, because she's focusing on what she needs to get done. So there's just a lot of trust there, which makes it so that I'm not checking your work. I'm not checking your time card. I'm not checking your stamps. But when we do have that quarterly review, her tracking is her way to negotiate for higher pay, is her way to negotiate and say, hey, look at this. Look at all this work I did. And I want her to own that and be proud of that. And I want her to feel like it's just giving us the paper trail to justify when she gets the title change, when she gets the raise, when she gets the bonuses, all of those things, because I'm going to give them to her anyway. So it's just one of those things of like, it just gives us data to affirm our gut feeling. And I think that that's what's going to help set the tone for anyone else we hire after Madison in a full-time capacity, because it just gives that, it's almost like an insurance policy. It's almost like saying like, I trust you to do the job. If there's ever a lack of trust, we have the information that can either set me straight or put you right back on a good path.
Yeah. So kind of helping them see the direct tie to the output of the business through that time tracking
Of
data.
course. And I'm always trying to get them to be efficient. So I don't care if it takes you, if you work a 9-hour day, like I really don't. Get your jobs done, go have fun. So it's a very like I said, maybe somebody else is rolling in their grave of like, this is not how you're supposed to have an employee, but also like I've only ever done this business. I started as a 20-year-old. I never had a corporate job. So what I don't know is kind of to my benefit, I guess. I don't know.
I think we have time for one more question if we've got one.
Yes, perfect. We're seeing a lot of questions kind of about the onboarding process, like how easy or not easy is it to onboard Harvest with your employees? Or
I think again, because it was one of the things that was always positioned is the wrong word, but explained. It was always explained as a benefit to the team and as like this is how we're going to figure out what you need the help with the most. That it's been very seamless and it's been very easy for them to track their time because they know it's an incentive for them. We also like had different objectives of like trying to gamify it. So they had like KPI when everybody was like a newer freelancer, we had like a KPI rubric, and each quarter they had to grade themselves on the rubric, and then I had to grade them on the rubric based on their output. And it was across 4 different categories: timeliness, independent work, creativity, and improvement month over month. So those were the 4 key objectives. They would grade themselves and then I would grade them. And based on the average of our answers, if they got 17 out of 20, they got an extra bonus. So they got an extra $250. So that was great because a lot of times, and I think this is particularly the case with women, we undervalue what we bring to an organization. And so I was over here grading their work as like a perfect 20 out of 20, and they were giving themselves 14. And I was like, no, but actually you are doing a good job. And look at all the stuff that you did, and look at all these results that you got for our clients. Like, let's build your confidence here because I'm so pleased with what you're doing and what's going on. So it became that kind of conversation. And then it got to the point where Madison became my first hire because every quarter after that, she was giving herself 20 out of 20 and I was giving her 20 out of 20. And I was like, okay, well, why don't you just come to work for me? And she's like, I would love that. So that's kind of how that came about, right? So that was really helpful in the beginning. And that was part in due to like the time tracking and giving them more autonomy and more responsibility. But those KPI check-ins incentivized people to want to do a good job, not for the clients, but for the sake of the organization, which became really fun because I'm a big fan of like, hey, the money that this team makes is everybody's money. Like, this is all our bucket, you know, like I'm an employee just like the rest of us. So if we all win, then everyone gets paid out. That seems fair.
Sounds like a win-win to me.
That's where we're at with it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Those are some good questions. Thanks, Megan. So yeah, as we wrap up today, I just want to thank you again so much. This was a really great conversation. We really appreciate you taking the time to chat with us and sharing all of your great insights. So thank you. Thank you. Just so everyone knows, we will be sending out an email early next week with a link to the recording. So you can share it out or, revisit it if, you found any of the insights useful. And again, just want to plug one more time, if you have a topic that you want to cover in an upcoming webinar or an idea, or want to participate, get in touch at marketing@getharvest.com and we'll get back to you. But yeah, thanks everyone. This was really great, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.